The Freedom Credit, page 8, the only individualistic, socially equitable digital money. So what's my motivation? What am I out to achieve with this project? What are the problems with Bitcoin and what can we understand about inflation? My motivation isn't to become rich. That's not why I'm doing this, obviously. Although I'd very much like that. I'd love to be rich. But really, my motivation is to win. That's what I care about. I want to see the greedy bankers lose. To me, that's winning. I want to see the world cooperate orderly and peacefully with a fair, unbiased, and good money. To me, that's winning. I want to see everyone around me become more prosperous and wealthy. To me, that's winning. I want people to have more wealth to invest in themselves and their businesses, offering the world and myself cheaper goods, services, and opportunity. To me, that's winning. I want to see zero-sum games lose, and to me, that's winning. I want to see immorality, deception, and greed die. To me, that's winning. I want to see everyone's standards of living increase dramatically for as long as I live. To me, that's winning. And when I say I want to see other people succeed at the same time, I'm obviously meaning myself as well. I want to see other people succeed and become rich by providing real-world value in exchange for honest freedom credits. To me, that's winning. If I had to choose between becoming a trillionaire in Australian dollars or a millionaire or even less in freedom credits, well, take a guess at what I'd choose. And not just because 1 million freedom credits would probably equal the value of real value of 1 trillion Australian dollars, not just because of that. I don't want to become rich at anyone else's expense. If I become rich, I want it to happen due to fair trade where we both win. I could charge fees and make a lot of money out of selling this new currency. I could. But I'd prefer to make it so attractive that people feel silly, if not downright stupid, for not using this. To do that, I'd cut out all fees and even offer your fiat back after a time delay. I don't want your fiat money. I want your freedom credits. But to get them, I want to earn them. I need to earn them. And I know I deserve them, as building a fair money is probably the most powerful and influential thing that's possible to do in this world. But again, I don't want to get rich in fiat. I want to get rich with freedom credits, meaning I want this to work. Fiat brings too much stress. The constant fear of banks closing my account, freezing transactions, stealing my money, claiming tax liabilities. It's not worth it, even for $10 trillion. And it would defeat the purpose. So, I share my intentions openly and honestly in the hopes of earning your trust. If you trust my intentions, I think it may be more likely you'll trust the freedom credit. Though something that's funny about people, even if you tell them exactly what you're up to, they still don't trust you. They still say, he's being so open and honest. What is he hiding? Can't win. My original plan was to use all the fiat invested for marketing, paying for ads and influencers to spread the message. But now I've decided not to do that. The success of the freedom credit, well, it really does depend on those people who are using it. So how do I plan on making money then? Well, it would be nice if this got up and running, if people donated. That would be cool. Or perhaps if I decide to, by selling tickets to seminars, speaking about freedom credit or other topics I'm interested in. That could be nice. Bitcoin problems. So the problems with Bitcoin are legion, and here are the most important. Bitcoin is centralized, it's public, it's an asset, it's slow, expensive, it's a bad unit of account, difficult to use, and volatile. So number one, it's a centralized exchange protocol. People think it's decentralized, but it's really not. The blockchain requires very expensive, super energy demanding computers to mine. It's completely unnecessary complexity, and really it's just downright stupid. When a single person or group controls 51% of ASICs, so they're the computers that do all the mining, which of course that would happen, they control the network. They can block transactions from happening and no one will know. How on earth are you meant to compete against billionaires? You can't. It's incoherent to think you can. This means your ability to transact is dependent on the world's most wealthy elite. Learn more about the Bitcoin scam and farms, where most of these computers are, in that video there. Your transactions are not guaranteed with Bitcoin. When the controlling force decide you're a dissident or don't align with their views, they'll just block your transactions, effectively making your Bitcoin worthless. It doesn't matter how safe it is in your wallet if you can't send or receive it. Even if you don't believe a single group currently controls a majority of the miners, it is possible for it to happen, and it's statistically very likely. Based upon the trends of those who accrue power. We have a whole history of humanity showing how these things work. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out simple human nature. And when your transactions do get blocked using this, no one will know. Number 2, public ledger. So that's obviously a huge vulnerability for hackers and scammers to take advantage of. This means your money is not safe and is at high risk of theft and fraud. Privacy is sacrificed for public safety. And some people think, oh, well, it's good because if the government use this and it's going to be transparent. People get so obsessed with this idea of transparency. So what? It is irrelevant. If you have a completely totalitarian dictatorship who's executing people on the streets and they're transparent about everything they do, so? It's meaningless. It's an absolute meaningless concept to then attach to government. And even if it did show what governments were up to, you don't think they're going to have a second account, a third account that you don't know, that isn't labeled as an official government payment channel? They can easily outthink you. Number 3, the price of Bitcoin relative to fiat. And again, obviously with this one, there are going to be people who know how to interpret those public keys and will figure out who's sending to who, and they will take advantage of that information. Why put it out there on the public? It's just not worth the risk. It's not even a risk, it's just a guaranteed shooting yourself in the foot. Number 3, the price of Bitcoin relative to fiat keeps rising. And a lot of people think this is good. What that means, though, is it's not seen as a currency, but an asset. It has very little trading utility. It's like digital gold. It's a store of value. A money or currency fundamentally needs to be a medium of exchange. Bitcoin is rarely accepted as money, as no one wants to trade with it because it is primarily used as a speculative asset to cash out in fiat. You need to understand that. It's very important. For you to make money with it, someone else has to lose, in the hopes they can sucker someone else in the future for even more. It can be considered an investment, but it's not a good money. Number 4, it's old and slow technology. It takes a long time to send Bitcoin. Big limits on how many transactions it can support per second. The Lightning Network does improve this, but it's still far from being practical. And number 5, it costs fees to transfer. The faster you want it, the more it costs. 6, the numbers are not user-friendly, meaning it's a poor unit of account. A $3 loaf of bread costs 0.0002337 Bitcoin on the 18th of March. I checked that. Number 7, it's quite difficult to learn how to use Bitcoin exchanges and wallets. Graphs everywhere, it's just too complex for the average person to use. It's not going to catch on. Passing KYC requirements is also energy demanding, frustrating, and can be rejected. Frustrating is an understatement, meaning you may not even be able to acquire Bitcoin. Many banks don't allow you to buy it, and exchanges often prevent you from cashing out into fiat, which has happened to me. For the common man, it's too difficult and time consuming to use, making it impractical and a bad money. 8. It's possible for influencers or big investors to manipulate the value of Bitcoin. Example, Elon Musk, he announced that he was going to accept Bitcoin as payment for his cars. Boom, price goes up. He then retracts that statement and says, we're not going to do that anymore. Boom, price goes down. Do you really want your money to be looking like a roller coaster? No certainty, you can't predict the future. An investment, sure. Okay, if you want to cash out in fiat, understandable. I still don't like that for other reasons, but I get it. To use it as a currency, there's just no good argument to use it as a currency. If you've got absolutely no alternative, okay. But if you do have alternatives that just need to be built, like the Freedom Credit, well, there is no valid argument for why you'd ever want to use Bitcoin. If a big holder decided to sell a large amount, yes, exactly, I said that. Oh, yes, then they could buy it back using a different company for much less, effectively acquiring more than they had. Yes, that is some sneaky tricks, which we know people use. Bitcoin faces several critical issues that hinders its effectiveness as a currency. I'm not going to read that. I've already stated that above. You can read that if you like. That's just a summary of the above. Next, moving on to understanding inflation. So inflation is the general increase in prices and the fall in the purchasing value of money. So it means when you have to use more numerical units or a higher nominal value to purchase the same real value. When your milk goes up from $2 to $4, you need more numerical designations, more units, $4 as opposed to $2, to buy the same thing, a litre of milk. That's inflation. So imagine a scenario on an island. 10,000 people, $100,000 total money supply, money per person, $10. Price of coffee is $1. This is a very simple example, but it still illustrates the point of how inflation can work. Everyone on the island, they love coffee, and they can afford 1 cup per day. So sad, I know, only 1 cup. Oh, horrific. They're being tortured here, only 1. The coffee shop has a capacity for 10,000 coffees a day. Now, the government and banks, they distribute 10 times more money. There's $1 million on the island, and each person has $100. People have more money, and everyone decides they want 2 cups per day. But the coffee shop still only has a capacity for 10,000, or 1 per day, per person. There is now a greater demand for the same supply. So what the coffee shop does is they raise the prices from $1 to $2 because they can make more profit without needing to increase supply. They can double their profit from $10,000 a day to $20,000 a day. Why wouldn't they do that? If they don't have any competition to keep them in check, the cafe can afford to do this, even if it drives some customers away. And if it's the only coffee shop on the island, it may not drive anyone away. Over the next 10 years, the governments and banks inflate the money supply considerably. Coffee that was originally $1 a cup now costs $7.50 a cup, which has happened in many countries. More money chasing the same amount of goods typically results in higher prices. In the real world, this happens when the banks don't create money to be used for productive purposes, such as funding start-up coffee competitors. And instead, they lend that money, well, they're not actually lending, you can't even call it lending, but they create that new money and loan it out to people, putting into circulation to use for speculative purposes, like fueling the stock market or for home loans. If more money enters the economy and doesn't create an increase in goods and services, then inevitably the prices for everything rise over time. Many people's wages don't increase at the same rate as this inflation, and they lose out, often defaulting on loans, tightening their budget, or even going homeless. This is a fact. We know this. We see this all over the world. Well, I do, traveling so often. The banks and government work together to legally increase the money supply on the daily, even if it isn't a grand conspiracy to transfer wealth from the many to the few and it's pure incompetence or even accident. If you're so naive and ignorant you think it's just an accident, well, shame on you. But the fact is, it's happening. Simultaneously, when the authorities dump more money into the system, they typically increase tariffs, rates and taxes at the same time. They give with one hand while taking with the other. Here's some money. Now I'm going to take it back from you. Higher taxes, same supply, higher prices equals some people losing badly. Allowing the government and banks to continue the current monetary system is having disastrous consequences all over the world. No country is safe, as the same currency value theft is occurring everywhere. Unless we switch to an individually controlled money supply like the Freedom Credit, eventually the governments and banks behind them will own everything, and there will be nothing we can do about it. So I hope you have enjoyed that video and this series about the Freedom Credit and money. As of the date of this recording, we're at, I think it's the 28th of March today, 2025. I only have 8 pages in the future. It's quite possible that I expand this and write some more and add more detail to this whole money situation because it's very important. If you have any questions or would like to share some great ideas you have on how I can improve this concept currency, please feel free to reach out and we can have a chat. Okay, bye.